So, some of you may remember back in August, I built myself, or rather, my friend built me, I think that made for an interesting video, a new storage server. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I definitely recommend that you go check that out. But today, I'm doing an update on my entire server infrastructure, because yes, it's more than just one machine now, I have an actual server infrastructure, and kind of complete on the promise that I made in that original video of updating y'all once I get it all set up and running, even though it's been almost a year. In any case, a quick refresher on the hardware in that first machine. It's all housed in a Norco RPC 450TH rack mount server chassis. Chose this one because it has plenty of hot swap drive bays and it is, after all, a storage server. And it's actually rack mountable because I wanted the option to, in the future, expand my server infrastructure like I've done and I'll talk about in this video. And so I went with an actual proper server rack mount chassis. Now inside, it's being powered by a Ryzen 7 1700 Non-X that I had lying around after I upgraded to Zen 2. This is housed in a ASRock B450 Pro 4 motherboard. It's reliable, it was cheap, and it had everything that I needed. This is running with 16 gigs of ECC RAM, although I'm hoping to upgrade that to 32 soon, because it's having issues where it's not having enough memory and it crashes. It's got about 11 terabytes worth of miscellaneous storage between hard drives and SSDs. It's got a GTX 950 as the GPU. I don't really need it. I mean, I guess I could use Plex hardware transcoding, but the CPU is plenty good enough for anything that I would need. And I don't think this motherboard operates in headless mode, so I have the 950 lying around, so I just plopped it in. And then it's running a Mellanox Connect X2 10 gigabit SFP Plus NIC for them blazing fast file transfer speeds. It is, after all, a storage server. So that's Elrond server, built it, got it set up back in August. It's running several different things. So FreeNAS is the operating system. Easy choice, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that in that original video. And it's running 4 main functions. First, SMB shares. So, again, it is a storage server. I need to be able to store my data, mostly my video files from YouTube and other projects of mine. And I wanted just easy access to them through my file explorer on whatever computer, so I set up some SMB shares. I also have it running as a backup machine, so all my computers are set up to back up to it periodically. Pretty simple. And then I have 2 plugins running on the server. The first is Nextcloud, which gives me a nice Google Drive-like interface for accessing my shares. So on my main computers, I have an actual mapped network drive, but on like my phone, sometimes I want to just download something that I worked on real quick. Mapping a whole network drive is not necessarily always super convenient. Nextcloud gives me a super nice interface for accessing it. Additionally, it has a lot of extra apps and plugins of its own that I haven't had a chance to really check out yet, but I do plan to, just to see what I can do. And then the other plugin I have running on FreeNAS is Plex, which, I don't know, seems kind of obvious. Family has a ton of movies and TV shows on DVDs and Blu-rays, so I figured, why not bring that over here to my place so that I can watch it here. So, ripped all those discs, put them on one of the drives, and I'm running Plex. Nice and easy. It's been working great so far. I've had no issues, aside from the running out of RAM and crashing part, but I can fix that soon. Another potential future upgrade is more storage, because some of my drives, or some of my pools, are starting to fill up. So I may upgrade those and then kind of shuffle everything over to larger drives, but that's not until later. So this machine has just been kind of sitting here in my drawer for most of the past year, just doing its job, doing its thing. It has a gigabit connection to the rest of my network, so I actually have a router, which I'll mention in a bit, that I use to manage my internal network, and then a direct 10 gigabit SFP Plus connection from that server to my main rig. But that changed recently. So in March, I decided to actually get proper mounting equipment. So I got a rack from Raising Electronics. I would not recommend it. It's not a standard rack. Rails won't fit on it. I had to use their shelf things, which are surprisingly sturdy, but if it weren't too late for me to return it, I would probably have ended up returning it. Not recommended. In any case, so it comes with these sort of shelf things, which are plenty strong enough to hold servers. They're just not actual proper rails. And so I just put that on that. I ordered a StarTech PDU, just a simple power strip surge protector, basically, rack mounted, just to keep everything nice and in one place, and so I don't have too many cables dangling around. I also revamped my network a little bit. So when I moved into this apartment, I bought myself a TP-Link Archer AC1750 router because I didn't want to have to deal with the Wi-Fi here at the apartment. I wanted my own. And I've used it to sort of manage my own network. I'm not going to go into too many details of what I'm managing, but I am. And it's been a great workhorse, great access point, super cheap, does its job very well. I also decided to get an actual network switch. So up until recently, because I just had a few devices, I just plugged everything into the router and it worked great. But now I've got more. I've got various laptops, I've got my desktop, multiple servers, a TV, all that need a wired connection. So I got a network switch, specifically the MikroTik CSS326 24G 2S Plus RM. Quite a mouthful, but it is a great switch. First of all, it's managed, so I can, manage it. I haven't really set up any VLANs yet. I don't really feel like I need to, but it does have that option. It's totally fanless, so I don't have to hear it buzzing. I already have enough things making noise in this room. It has 24 gigabit Ethernet ports, so I can connect all my devices. But it also has two 10 gig SFP Plus ports. So my storage server can connect to it, my desktop can connect to it, and they can have 10 gig access to everything else on my network. And the best part of this switch is it was under $150, which for this incredible deal, amazing. I've been loving it ever since I got it. Very handy, very convenient. I also added in a Raspberry Pi that I had lying around. I tried to do some projects with it, like Pi-hole or PiVPN, with limited success if I'm being honest, but I still have it just in case, and I clearly have plenty enough room on my Switch for it. Which brings us to the last thing, the new server, the render server. So, quick backstory. Back in January of 2020, before any of this COVID stuff started, I switched to Linux on my main rig. No more Windows at all, switched to Linux, all Linux apps. But occasionally I do still need Windows. That's the thing. That's the unfortunate truth. For various reasons, mostly work, I need Adobe Apps or Camtasia occasionally. So I needed a Windows machine, but I didn't want to be tempted by Windows on my personal rig. I mean, now after using Linux for so long, I won't be because I'm so used to using Zorin OS 15, if anyone's wondering. And actually, if you want me to make a video on why I switched and how I felt since then, please leave a comment down below. But that's not the point here. The point here is I didn't have Windows anymore, and I kind of still needed Windows apps sometimes. So another thing that made me switch to Linux is I ditched Adobe Premiere for my work, at least. For work, like my job, I still needed to use it. But for personal use, I switched to DaVinci Resolve. It's great, high performance, has all the features that I need at least. It's free and it works on Linux. A+. Except that the free version doesn't support H.264 codecs. So my regular files for my camera don't work. Like, they don't show up. They don't register. So I have to transcode them into, so far I've been using DNxHR as a sort of intermediary codec. If anyone has any better suggestions, please let me know in the comments down below. It takes up so much space, which is part of the reason why I want to upgrade my storage server a little bit. But I've been just using FFmpeg on the command line to turn my files into DNxHR. And then once I've worked on it, I output a DNxHR file again, use Handbrake to re-encode it into an H.264 file. But that's not the most convenient. A lot of just waiting around while my computer just does that. And also the command line interface for FFmpeg is not the most user-friendly. Now, Adobe Media Encoder, on the other hand, can do all of this, and it can do it automatically with watch folders. I can set up a watch folder on my storage server, have Adobe Media Encoder look for things, and automatically encode them into whatever format. So when I'm done filming, pop in my SD card, copy over my files, let it do its automatically running. Within 5 minutes, I can start editing. Great. So I decided, okay, I don't want my main rig to be doing that, because then I'd have to switch over to Linux just to use Media Encoder, or switch over to Windows just to use Media Encoder. I don't want to do that. So finally bit the bullet and built myself a second server, a render server. So this one is running Windows. I remote desktop into it for whenever I need to use it, unless occasionally I'll run like a game like Division 2 that's not on Linux. And in that case, I have USB extension cables for my keyboard and mouse, and a 30-foot HDMI cable for my monitor. Probably not the best solution, but it works. In any case, remote desktop into it, that way I can manage Adobe Media Encoder or whatever else, and it's been working great. So, what kind of hardware do I have? Ryzen 5 3600X as the CPU. Now, yes, I know, only 6 cores. Why didn't I use the 8 core from the storage server, swap them out? With the improvements of Zen 2, the 3600X and the 1700, actually I'd argue that the 3600X is probably better for encoding. It's newer, it's plenty fast enough. Plus, I'm going to be bottlenecked by the single gigabit connection that the render server has, so I won't be able to transcode my footage that fast anyways. And honestly, I'd rather just save the money, so I went with the 3600X 6-core processor. Don't worry, it's still plenty fast enough. This is all in a ASRock B450M AC motherboard. It's the smaller version of the one I have in my storage server, but with Wi-Fi. I don't need Wi-Fi, but unfortunately, due to this little bit of a global pandemic, supply of electronics is somewhat limited. And, well, it's a reliable motherboard. It comes with Ryzen 3000 support out of the box, and it was the only one in stock at a reasonable price. I could have gone full ATX, but the original chassis I was going to use was a 3U. I ended up ditching that because it wouldn't fit a graphics card. That's my fault. But I just kept the same MATX motherboard. I'm running 16 gigs of non-ECC memory and an RX 570 8GB as the GPU because I wanted good VRAM, decent performance for GPU encoding, and that was the cheapest available one that I could find. So it works. And then the chassis is an iStar USA D-Storm 4U. I forget the exact name. I can put it here. It's a solid, reliable thing. No hot swap bays or anything. 4U still, but it's lighter than my other case, and it's a little smaller because I don't really need that much extra stuff. And yeah, so that's just been running. So I now have 2 servers, a full actual network infrastructure, and it's probably going to grow sometime soon with even more stuff. So when that does, I will definitely keep you guys updated, hopefully in a more timely fashion. But for the time being, if you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any comments, questions, anything at all, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more cool videos. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.